Miss Andrews, are you okay?
Definitely not. I'm actress Valerie Alline, and I play Amy Andrews in the new film, The Empty Space.
It's okay. Everything's gonna be okay.
A violent attack leaves her without her boyfriend, her home, her sense of self. Amy, like so many of us, suffers from mental illness. As she tries to get her life back together, she's haunted by terrifying visions that may or may not be real. Empty Space goes beyond the slasher and takes you deep into the void. We hope you join us as our film premieres on streaming. We also hope that not only are you frightened, but you gain some insight into a serious problem that affects so many people, including the filmmakers.
I know how it sounds. What if it's real?
The Empty Space, a terrifying new vision from director Andrew Hara.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Bomb Squad. I'm Andrew Hara, and I'm still promoting The Empty Space. And good news, it is now available on Tubi. So go check it out right now. Watch the commercials. Put that all the commercials were great, and then give us a like and a subscribe. It's for free, so you got to do something for us. Nothing in the world is free. Anyway, so we have another guest who worked on The Empty Space, Celeste Rodriguez. Hello, Celeste. How are you?
Hello, everybody. I'm good. Enjoying this nice summer day.
Cool. Yeah. So all those complicated special effects that you saw in The Empty Space on Tubi right now, go watch it. That was Celeste. We had worked together at the news. I knew that she was kind of into all this animation. Oh, by the way, okay, so you've seen Borderland, I assume, on Tubi. Go check it out. This tattoo that I have of Borderland is you can't see it that well. It's a dancing skeleton. Also Celeste.
Yes, sir.
She designed that tattoo because my tattoo artist was a gringo, and I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna let a gringo design this Day of the Dead Mexican."
A little bit of Mexican
skeleton.
spice.
So let's tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started in art and everything like that?
So originally I've always liked drawing since I was small. I used to put all my drawings in my dad's garage, and that was like my critique up there. Of course, daddy's gonna say, "Oh, they're all great," and
Yeah.
after that, I went to UTIP for a little bit, and I was doing a different major, and then I decided, hey, why not go back to what I really like to do? So NMSU had the CMI program, and they had a creative media, and it had animation and visual effects. So that kind of hit a home run for me, and that's what I decided to do. I graduated from there, and from there I started working where I met Andrew at KFox. I started my first 2 years as a graphic designer, and then I went my other 2 years doing promotions and doing events and editing, camera, special effects, all that kind of stuff. And Andrew called me up one day, and he was like, "Hey, you want to do something for me?" I said, "Yeah, sure.
He's
What are
really
we
good at
doing?
that.
Yeah,
How?" And yeah, that's where we are right now.
yeah. And to be
Nice.
fair, I also did that to get her on this podcast. You can't know Andrew without him asking for you to do something.
That's true.
Yeah,
How you know you're in.
yeah. I forgot that you went to CMI. Yeah, I took
Yeah.
an
Yeah, that's
animation
awesome.
course too at
Yeah.
CMI. I like that they had a light desk. As soon as I found out they had a light desk, I'm like, I'm going traditional. And that's
Yeah.
why my only animation thing I've ever done is 30 seconds long because
Same.
that light desk is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so where do you get your inspiration from when you're drawing and everything?
Honestly, a lot of people, they say it comes in their head, but a lot of times I like to mix a lot of, reference from other people. It definitely gives me an idea in my head to hey, evolve something from it, get another idea from it, and honestly, get it where's I get. I love doing the weird, creepy, spooky, aliens. When I went to school, my final senior project was some stuff on aliens.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. I did a 3D animation, kind of like a Star Wars kind of a reel, and I just like all that weird stuff. I'm a big Tim Burton fan,
Nice.
so
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
Coraline choice for sure.
yes.
Yeah.
I got her sitting right here.
I know. I was gonna say. I
My
saw
daughter loves
the
that
doll.
movie. She loves it. I had to
Really?
get her the doll. I had to get her the doll. She loves it. She watches
Yeah.
twice a day.
Nice.
She loves it.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah, cool. And so like for this one, you weren't really doing, I mean, you're animating, but it was like, I mean, we can't really spoil it, guys. You'll have to watch the movie right now on tubi.com. Go check it out. Um but we it was complicated kind of stuff, and I remember like asking you like, oh, I don't know if you could do it, but it comes out really well and it really works. Like the movie without it doesn't work as well. It just kind of happens, but this one kind of adds to it, and I think that worked well. Did you have any challenges with this kind of effect? I mean, it's been so long, but
yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that animations, visual effects, even making movies, it sounds like a long time, but when you're working on it, it's really a short time. If you think about
right.
it, it
Yeah.
takes forever. The one thing when you're working on animation and visual effects is the rendering part. It's definitely, takes a long time to render, and then you got to wait for it to render and see if it came out right. And then you go back and do it again, and then render, go back, do it again, add effects. I know when we first started, we had talked about using a different type of color for the special effects.
Mhm.
And when we went into it, we decided to change up the color and give it more of that kind of a spacey vibe.
Yeah, kind of a empty
Color.
space vibe.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
one of the cool things that I liked is that yeah, me and Celeste were kind of like working on the tattoo, kind of started it, but like we work very well together in terms of like kind of having the same idea of what works and what doesn't work, and like especially with this one. I mean, this is the first time I really used visual effects. On everything else, it's been pretty in camera. I mean, there's not a lot of zombie stuff that we need to do, so yeah, it was an interesting way to do it, and I'm glad I get Celeste to help me because I trusted her already.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, that was
can't, once you get someone to do something on your body, you can't be like, I don't trust you that much.
it's not
The
my first tattoo.
tattoo.
It will wear you forever, Celeste.
Yeah, I mean, I have my brother-in-law. I did a tattoo for him too. He
Nice.
did like a family crest.
Oh yeah,
After I showed him yours,
Oh,
he's
hell
like,
yeah.
"Hey, man, can you work on mine too?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "All
Yeah.
right."
Yeah.
Hold on.
That's
So,
awesome.
I mean,
And of
tattoo. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, well, and I was gonna say, and your brother also is in the movie, and you had to. Again, we won't spoil it, but you had to animate a very important scene with him. How was
Yeah.
that? You just had to stare at your brother for like 12 hours straight, just working.
Yeah, I was actually talking to my husband about it. He's like, I still have, I know it's been a few years, but I still remember hearing you in the office and hearing it on repeat over and over and over. And I was like, that's how the editing goes. You just gotta keep going. And yeah, he's like, editing my brother was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because everybody, they see him camera and they're like, oh, what about you? And I'm like, no, man, I'm background noise.
You don't see me.
Yeah.
No.
Me too. I'll never be in the camera. But yeah, I think it comes out well. It's kind of hard. It is funny. I didn't think about that until we started talking, but most of the stuff is um spoilery, so we won't get too into it. But I think like it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that we're able to kind of touch on these things and to add this. And again, I think like that those final animations really make the movie. And like it's funny because we were talking about the color,
Yeah.
and so many reviews so far have brought up the color and like
Yes.
the color palette, and I think that that's interesting because we had discussions about it on like
Yeah.
how important it was and stuff, and so it's funny to see that like kind of be recognized after the fact.
Yeah, it was a lot
Hell
of
yeah.
questions. I remember when we had your showing at the Rio Grande Theater, that was a question someone asked. Well, how did you come across the color? You
Hmm.
know, and
Yeah.
it's funny because you never realize how important small things like that are.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, it's like the nature of the beast of us doing independent films. Like, there's a scene where we started to touch on that color, and the reason we picked that color is because I had three choices, and so I went with the one I liked the best,
Well, it worked
and
well.
then we kind of just added to it, and like it kind of became this motif, and it works very well in the film.
Yeah,
It goes pretty good. I like what we did. Yeah.
it came out good. And
Yeah.
even watching it in theater, I was talking to my brother about it. It's a whole different aspect of it.
Yeah.
Felt like I was watching a whole different movie, like editing wise and everything. When you see it on a big screen, it's like, all right, that looks
Yeah.
awesome.
This is
It's
real,
different
yeah.
from when you're editing it in your computer like hours and hours, and you see it on a big screen, and you're like, that's badass.
Yeah.
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 Everything all of a sudden flows like
Yeah.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, like, again, I remember, because we watch it on these little screens on the computer and the sound booth and everything. And then I've watched it, I don't know, I would say like 75 times. And so I remember when we
It
were
came out on Tubi.
yeah, just on Tubi, which is where you should be watching. That's a number of times before you get it. And so I remember like people were asking me like, "Oh, is it scary?" And I was like, "No, it's not. It's creepy. It's very creepy. It has very like David Lynchy vibes." And then afterwards, people were telling me, "No, dude, I was scared."
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. I
and in my
remember
head,
that.
I was like, I guess because you're in the theater, it's completely black. The screen is
Yeah.
huge, or sound around you, and so I
You
think
get
that
that
definitely made
whole
it scary.
vibe. That
Yeah,
whole vibe.
Yeah.
I was even hearing when we were in theater, like kind of scared, and I was just like, when you're making, I was like, I don't know, it's scary, and then you think about it when the whole aspect of it.
yeah,
I heard people like,
Yeah.
oh, that was scary, or like this, that, and that's definitely what intrigued me when you told me, hey, I'm gonna work on this, and when you told me kind of what, I'm like, that's
yeah.
me right there. It's definitely up my alley.
Yeah,
That's gonna be fun. But yeah, it was definitely fun working on it. But yeah, it gives you that whole creepy, kind of scary, empty
yeah,
Yeah.
space vibe.
yeah. And if you think it was scary in theaters, wait until you watch it on Tubi.com. Anyway, watch it on Tubi. I'm not saying it's bad. I'll cut this part. I'll cut out the part where I say my own movies.
Or don't.
Or no, we'll leave it in. It's crazy time. So now, as always, we let our guests pick. And if you hadn't noticed from the title or from our conversation earlier, we picked Coraline, which was
Yes.
2009. It's directed by Henry Selick, who is the actual director of Nightmare Before Christmas. I know a lot of people
Yes.
think Tim Burton
Tim Burton,
directed it, but he did produce it, and he kind of came up with a lot of like they worked very well together. Kind of the way
Yeah.
that Henry worked on this one with Neil Gaiman, who wrote the original story. They worked
Yeah.
on the screenplay. It's kind of, I think it's kind of something that Henry likes, which is cool. I think that like doing a movie and then getting the original writer involved is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It stars Dakota Fanning, Terry
Mhm.
Hatcher. It's also animated, by the way, if you don't know.
Stop motions definitely. It's
Yeah.
it gives me that really cool vibe. I like it. Like you said, Night Before Christmas, anything like that. I don't think people really take into the matter of fact that how long it takes to do each stop motion, each frame, everything, and that's what really interests
Yeah.
me. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I like all
Totally.
types of animation, After Effects and stuff. But this movie really got me with the the most stop motion, the animation. I love the music in it. It's
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
It's very. My daughter loves the soundtrack too.
Nice.
Loves
Yeah.
hearing. She's
It's
like,
like a
"Mommy,
nice
Coraline,
piano the whole
Coraline." And
time.
I'm like, "All right, let's listen to the soundtrack."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a movie that a lot of people, Night for Christmas is a big movie, a big
Right.
thing, and a lot of people do like Coraline, but I think it's something that like I was debating whether to do Coraline or Night for Christmas. Night for Christmas is my favorite one,
Oh, yeah.
but I really want to do Coraline because it's just the whole vibe of it. I really liked it. That grungy kind of rainy, I don't know, like Seattle kind of vibe, like
Yeah.
moist
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
wet, and it was
Mhm.
really cool.
Misty all the
Yeah, misty
time.
all the time. Always having
Yeah.
raincoats, always raining, and yeah,
Yeah. It definitely adds kind of like a sort of like like sadness and like loneliness that Coraline's kind of like going through
yeah,
like this weather. Like, don't go outside. Everything that you bring inside is gonna suck.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like all this, all these things are just making her have the worst time she could possibly have
yeah,
Yeah.
until she finds the portal.
Right.
Obviously.
yeah.
Well, and William, will you break down this plot synopsis real fast?
Yes. So do you want me to spoil it at the end, or is kind of
No,
stop it in
just
the
the
middle?
just a basic story.
Okay. So it's this girl, Coraline, and she and her parents have just moved to, I think, I read on the Wikipedia that it was Ashland, Oregon, which I've heard is a very cool little hippie town.
Yeah.
But they moved there, and her parents are working on this like gardening catalog for their jobs. They work at the same place, and they don't have time for Coraline. And she's just bored wandering around this new house, and she's just trying to kind of have fun. And then one night, she finds this weird door in her house, and it leads to a different universe where she has parents that love her and care for her, even though her real parents also love and care for her. These new parents are cooler, but they have button eyes and they're kind of sketchy. So the movie is kind of Coraline hanging out with these new parents while also realizing that they're dangerous, while also trying to come to the terms with her new move and her new location and situation.
Right. Yeah, and another thing that I think is cool is that Lenka is a company that produced it, and they've produced
Yes.
like Paranorman and
Paranorman,
Box Trolls and
Box
stuff like
Trolls,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, but they are located in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is where I used to live with Joshua Epp, who's our other
I
co-host.
saw.
And
Hell
it's
yeah.
cool because you can go to. I actually, I had a couple of. I got to tour the facility, and you get to see the Coraline doll. It's way bigger than you would assume
Oh,
because I
cool.
would always assume it was like action figure size, but
Yeah,
no, it's
their
not.
scene setups are a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
How big is Coraline? Like, how big is the actual doll?
Like they have different ones, but the one I saw was like 3 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty big, like
Oh,
because
whoa.
you have to like you, and then you think about it, and they have to like move it so much because like stop
Yeah.
motion animation is like you move it a little bit and then you take a picture and you move it a little.
Frame,
And
frame,
so
frame.
Right.
like for the really intricate stuff, like they get bigger and smaller just depending on what they need for that scene, and it's something like I didn't think about. You think you just make one
Yeah.
and then you just play with it.
Yeah, they have
Like
it
that
like
garden, like his psychedelic garden probably must have been
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
to get all that detail in there.
right. And one thing that's cool, or that I wish I knew, is like how much of it is in camera. Because like there's this scene where she looks into the door, and
mhm,
there's like this tunnel, and the tunnel is like shooting light at you.
it's that
And I'm,
blue
I,
light.
yeah, and I'm wondering like how much of that was on in camera, and how much did they add in post, and like you can't. I
Yeah.
mean, the cool thing about stop motion is you can't really tell because it's. I mean, everything is kind of
Yeah.
artificial, Yeah, William, what did you think of this movie?
I mean, I think it's good. I think that something that the stop motion thing sort of adds to movies like this is like that kind of uncanny valley of like they kind of move like humans, but they're also like a little weird. And so that automatically just kind of gives it like that perfect kind of dreamlike atmosphere
Right.
that you always kind of want from Neil Gaiman's stories. And I mean, I like Nightmare Before Christmas, but my favorite one was James and the Giant Peach.
Oh,
Yes.
My
yeah.
favorite Henry Selick. That was
That's
like
a
the best one.
older one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
was younger, that
So
was a
like
little
didn't
creepy
think
for
I
me
had.
at first. When I
What's
was
up?
smaller, that one was a little creepy for me, and then it grew on me
Yeah,
as I
that
got a
one's
little bit
hardcore
older.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they all are like they all have like that
Mhm.
same kind of look. Like I think it's kind of niche. I think that like a lot of people like the idea of it, but not everybody watches it all the time. So I think that's kind of why we don't see more stop motion get made. But I think whenever one comes out and it's good, people like flock to it. Like
Yeah.
what was the one that Wes Anderson made? Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Mhm.
Like people love that movie. Isle of Dogs. I don't think people really watch that one as much, but I think when people like a stop motion, like it's something that automatically becomes like a cult classic.
Yeah.
And on Reddit and like other places I see online, Coraline is still talked about all the
Oh
time.
yeah.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like a legit treasured stop motion movie.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
good. It's scary. It's weird, but I don't know. It has all the things you want from a stop motion. So I had a really good time watching it again. The last time I saw it, I was actually at NMSU, and I saw it like way down. I forgot what that theater was called. Anyways, in Allen Theaters, I
Allen
believe.
Yeah.
Theaters. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I saw this there, and it brought back some memories too, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, I had a great time watching it.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I really liked about it, like my favorite movies were Star Wars growing up, and I like because of that. I like when kids movies kind of don't dumb down things for kids, because kids are very
Yeah.
smart, especially like
Hmm.
younger kids. They're like absorbed so much, and so like this movie it doesn't feel like a kid's movie. It feels like for everyone, It's like it
Yeah.
takes its time. It doesn't do the reveal right away. And so you really spend time with the characters, which I think is cool. And it works really well because you kind of like once she goes into the other world, you kind of get the sense that something's wrong, but they're not telling you. And you don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything seems right, which again kind of relates to our movie, The Empty Space. We have the same kind of themes
Truly.
with, this idea that you can artificially live this one life, but it's artificial. Or you could go
Yeah.
back to the real world, and the real world sucks sometimes, And so I think that that's an important story to tell kids because, kids aren't going to always, nobody's ever going to have a perfect, every day is perfect. And so I think it's good
Yeah.
to kind of like, this movie does a really good job of shedding that light and keeping it so like it doesn't get, because there's sometimes when kids movies get too complicated and then it's like I don't think kids care about like there's no way a kid can keep up with this.
Yeah.
But this one it manages that very fine line of like it doesn't dumb things down, but it also isn't too much, and I think it works
Mhm.
like overall really well.
I think in general, it's just
Yeah.
a family movie. It's for
Mhm.
everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And then speaking of the theaters, I saw that studio that you were talking about, Lakia, they're coming back with airing it in the theaters. But also
Oh, cool.
August
What is
14th.
it?
They're gonna put it back in theaters, like when they bring back theaters. August
Oh,
14th.
Coraline.
Yeah, Coraline.
Oh,
August
nice.
14th,
Hell
they're gonna
yeah.
have it here in El Paso in the Cinemark West
Nice.
and on the East one. And they have two showings. Of course, it's just that day, but there's one at 4
Right.
and one at 7. And I was like, all right, why not?
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah, that's badass.
it's that cool thing where it's like if you could see this movie in theaters, I think you should because like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I mean the cool thing about stop motion animation is that you see every effect on screen. Like every second of the movie, there's so much putting into it that you get to appreciate it more. And if you can see that on the biggest screen possible, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll definitely be taking my daughter to see that. Like I said, she's I was watching one
Yeah, that's
day and
exciting.
she's 3 years old and she watched the whole movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
She was very into it, and after that, she wanted her own doll, and
That's awesome.
I had to
Of
get her
her or of
of
Coraline?
Coraline, and she says that
Gotcha.
Coraline is her, that she's the doll.
Oh, yeah, of
I'm
course, of
like,
course.
cool, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, it's me, and I'm like, all right.
Well,
But
I'm
going,
your real mother,
yeah,
so don't
Yeah.
forget, please.
the other mother,
Yeah, there's no other mother.
yeah, that's just me.
Trust me. If someone
um,
is, they're not.
no, and going back to it, I had really liked, like you were saying, it resonated with Empty Space with me, and I thought it would be cool to mix it with it because it's like, be careful what you wish for, you know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Their poster, even I don't know if you've seen their poster where she's going into the door. It says, "Be
Yeah.
careful what you wish for," because like you said, sometimes reality sucks, but you go into this perfect so-called world, and you never know what you get into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too good to be true.
Yeah.
And one, like, see, that's
Yeah.
a perfect example. Like, your daughter loved it. She didn't need, she was able to sit through the whole thing. Like I said, like, there's something almost like whimsical about it when you're
Yeah.
watching it. It kind of
Yeah.
draws you in. And like, even when they're just kind of like, I think of that first scene where she goes and talks to her dad,
Yeah.
and he's like so distracted. He's a writer, and he has this like kind of weird, like, he looks like if someone made a writer from scratch, And
Yeah.
she-
Yeah. He's all twisted and
Yeah.
long.
and she's behind him, and she's like kind of moving real
Freaking the
fast. And
door.
like, yeah, they're not really doing
Yeah.
too much. Like, they're just kind of talking back and forth. Or she's like swinging on the door, but
Just trying to
visually
get
it looks
attention.
so good, and it's kind of like everything is like you could just see that image, and you know exactly who Caroline is and who her dad is and what their like relationship is to each other. And
Yeah.
you don't need to like watch it with even volume. And that's what I mean. Like, it's a complicated thing because they're just talking, and like, you'd think that kids would get bored, but the way the movie expresses itself is so visceral that, again, like, you watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
also, how cool is it that you get to take her to see your favorite movie in theaters? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, her first actual favorite movie was that we took her to see was Buzz Lightyear, but the
Oh,
new
yeah.
one, the one that's called
Oh, yeah.
just
Yeah.
Lightyear.
Yeah.
And after
Yeah.
that, she started, she sees me, and I like animated movies, whether it's 2D, 3D, stop
Mhm.
motion, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the first one we took her to see Lightyear, and after that, she loves any type of animation movies now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gotten hooked.
She's not a YouTube child. She loves movies. She loves movies,
Cool.
and she'll
Yeah.
sit through the movies.
Cinematic child.
She likes to go to the theater. We tell her, hey, where we're going? She's like, we're in the movie. She's like, all right. She likes the whole feel of it, the theater, the darkness, like you
Yeah.
said. She gets her popcorn ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's
That's awesome.
she's definitely gonna love it.
Yeah, and I think that that's so cool, and especially like with these kind of movies that are like, this movie also has a good message. I mean, it's just kind of like it tells you a good story, and I think that that works really well. And I think that like it's funny, and one of my favorite things about it is that Coraline feels so real. Like, she's allowed to be kind of annoying in the way kids are annoying, where it's like
Yeah.
they don't mean it, but they also can't help it, and so
Yeah.
and I just like that, because again, it's such a risk, because you could kind of
Mhm.
push it too far, and then she's annoying the whole time, and you don't like her and you don't care. Or you could kind of have it the other way,
Yeah.
which a lot of kids movies do, where she's almost too perfect and it doesn't like feel real. And so
Yeah.
kudos
Good
to
line.
them for going all the way with it, and also giving her
Yeah.
blue hair, because that really looked cool every time.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people ask
Kinda
that
walk around.
question. Yeah, a lot of people ask that question, and I was really actually curious about it. And apparently, the idea was that she colored her hair because before they moved over there, because I guess
Oh,
because of
yeah.
the feel of the move, and because she
Mhm.
originally has the brown hair like her parents.
Right.
And
Oh.
yeah, she colored her hair blue. I don't know if that was like how you're saying, she's rebelling out
Yeah.
or
Right.
anything, but
Her rebellion.
it worked well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's cool because like Coraline's the perfect character for this story. Like, she's not like super like, she's not a wild child, but she also like doesn't behave all the time. Like,
Yeah,
she's very
she's a kid.
curious is
Pushover.
the best way to post it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
what
she's
curi-
like
what kind of a
she's almost a little bit fearless, to a detriment, as you can tell.
Yeah.
in a big old creepy house? I mean, what kid doesn't want to wander in a big
Yeah.
old house?
I know.
No.
Looking for creepy keys. And I think like
Yeah.
Terry Hatcher plays the mom and the other
Hmm.
mom once she gets to the other side, and
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
it's such a good performance because as the mom, she's playing it like very. She's busy. She's busy. She has like she loves Coraline, of course, but she's just busy with work. She's busy with stuff, and
Yeah.
so she's kind of
They have a
like
deadline coming up.
hmm. And then on the other hand, you have this other mom, and she's perfect. She always thinking about Coraline and what she can do for her, and so, but like again, it's just such a thin line because you could have played it where we knew that she was evil right away, or you could have played it like
Yeah.
you don't like she's too good, and so like they play it perfect, so you kind of feel something's off, but you
Yeah.
don't 100%
Mhm.
know who's in charge or what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they have cool stuff like they go to the circus at one point, and like they
The
shoot,
circus mouse.
yeah, they
Yeah.
shoot like cannons
Candy. Cotton
Candy
filled
candy.
with
candy.
cotton candy, and they grab it and shit. And so like so the world is so it, by itself it's so unique, and so like it makes it give me one.
It's like designed to be fun. It's like designed to be like
Mm-hmm.
this like carnival for everybody. Everything is like cool and bright
Right.
and like probably tastes good. It's just like the Garden of Sin, but like the family version,
Yeah.
which is
What
weird.
really got to me was the other mother. She was always making food, and kind of made me hungry.
I
The
know.
breakfast, the feast, what was
Yeah.
it? The mango
Yeah.
milkshake. I'm just like, you know,
They-
You never eat the food though, right? Like
yeah.
if you're in like a scary world, you never
Right.
eat the food. It's like rule number one. She broke it immediately.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. The popcorn looked really good, I'm gonna say. And
Yeah.
she threw it away, and I was like, don't throw away the
I
popcorn.
know, like immediately. She didn't even have one piece.
I was like, what are you doing? There's so much
I
popcorn
know.
left. But
I
yeah,
heard
I think
somewhere,
like oh go ahead.
like whenever they were making the book, like Neil Gaiman was like sending it to his editor or someone,
Mhm.
and they were letting their kids read it. And Neil Gaiman was like, "This book's gonna be like way too scary. Like I'm never gonna get this published." But then the editor came back and was like, "Oh yeah, my kids loved it. They thought it was so good." And then like years later, it came out that the kids were actually like scared shitless reading it, but they loved it so much that they wanted to know the end, so they didn't tell their mom that it was scary. And then, so she published this book, thinking it was tame, but it was scary as
That's
fuck.
so well, and it's funny because like I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, we had the scary stories to tell in the dark books, and
Hmm.
those
Oh
were like
yeah,
every book, every like it's a series of tales, and every tale was like someone died at the end, and so like
yeah,
I was reading those like
super
in
gritty stuff.
third grade and being like,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes people just die, I guess.
Go to
This is
the,
how
what
it
is it,
is.
Scholastic Book Fair?
Yeah, I think that might have been where I got them.
Yeah.
And so again,
Yeah,
like kids. I mean, there's just like everywhere else. There's some kids who don't like scary stuff, some kids who do, but like
yeah,
I think it's always cool when you get to like introduce them to something and like have it. You don't want to introduce them to Nightmare on Elm Street, but Coraline
Nightmare
works
Before
well
Christmas.
because
Yeah.
it's there, but it's not. It's for kids, or for
Yeah.
families, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of the movie?
Man, I mean, I love the whole movie, but I think my favorite part is when she first opens up that door and that
Mm.
tunnel lights up with I think it's like
Yeah.
purple, blue, and
It
that
just like
sound of like,
expand.
ah, like just
Yeah.
she's like, all
Yeah.
right, just draw me in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That I think I really like that one. That kind of opened up to me like, all right, this is gonna if that's already creepy and very bright, you already know,
Yeah.
once you go into that
Yeah.
world, that's what you're going to see. And I couldn't
Yeah.
wait to see
Right.
when I first watched. I
What's
was
gonna
like,
be
all
there?
right, I can't go in the tunnel. Like, what are we seeing?
Right.
Well, let's
Right.
go.
Yeah. Totally. If it makes you interested in seeing the world, that's
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
what more could it do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
I think
perfect.
that
Well,
was the part that I really liked.
yeah, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
that part works because like the whole movie kind of feels like that, where like when she
Hmm.
sees the circus, you're like, oh, what's gonna happen in there? Like you're always kind of
Yeah,
like, let's
Right.
find out.
And like no one else is in the circus tent, but there's like a bunch of chairs, so like
Mhm.
everything's just a little weird.
Yeah,
Just a little off.
yeah, like it feels very desolate, but there's always people everywhere she goes.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it definitely feels like it feels like it's made for her, and I think that's cool.
It's like her own
Right.
whole
Yeah.
little world, which, like I said,
Yeah.
Which it is.
that's
Yeah.
the world that
Hmm.
she created,
It's
kind
getting
of for her.
spied on by the
Yeah,
doll.
Yeah.
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 That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm like, are you sure you
Creepy
want
little
that on your
doll.
desk? Like, watch
Yeah,
out, man.
Yeah. Yeah. William,
I
what
know.
was your favorite part?
Honestly, I like the psychedelic garden,
Oh yeah.
like
That was
the
cool.
dad's garden. Like, I love that scene of like going through it. I feel like that's like such a cool like wonder time. I guess I don't know. It makes me feel very fantasy and very
He
cool.
had
Yeah.
like what those
So
birds, the
I really yeah.
butterflies, the flowers, everything was just moving. It was very animated.
Yeah,
It was really cool.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's like her face, the garden is, but it's like
Yeah.
so like she loves it, but like you're like that's weird as hell. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't want my face
When
looking
he
like that.
says our garden, she's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Are you sure?
it's kind of funny, like, because you kind and again we do this in the empty space, but you like the character has that like they the mom is creating this world for Coraline, but it's based on what the mom thinks Coraline wants. And we
Oh
do that
yeah.
same thing in the empty space, and it's like
Yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
because she doesn't really know. She's making this kind of ward. Like I remember when she sees the dad, and she's so confused, and it's like, what's going on? And like, and so the dad in the other world, and because like he's been controlled by the mom, and so like
Yeah.
I love that aspect that like they really thought about how this world would look, what Caroline wants from a dad, and then how the mom would think that she wanted it from the dad. And so I think that
Yeah.
like that adds an extra level of creepiness, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I
Yeah, and
agree.
you got her friend YB there. That's his neck's always sideways,
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
and his cat too. Who doesn't like a
He
talking
looks more
cat?
normal.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh yeah.
The cat is,
Um,
and then the cat's
Ian McShane.
Keith, yeah. No, the cat is Keith David. Ian McShane is
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
circus
yeah,
cat.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
Keith David having that cat voice is so funny because he has such a
yeah.
deep voice,
he
but it
voiced that
works for him
guy.
'cause he's so raggedy. You know, it sounds
Yeah,
like
he's a
he
freaky
would sound
cat.
like that. You know,
Yeah.
But
that's so
yeah,
good.
like I said, I was picking between Night Before Christmas and Coraline, and I kept telling myself, I know your favorite was Night Before Christmas, but something about Coraline, it all hit for me, from the music
Yeah,
to animation to the story, just everything.
right.
So I just
Yeah.
really wanted to
Just
talk about
complete.
it. Yeah, it was just completely
Al-
Hell
complete
yeah.
for me.
Also, it's funny and it shows how much our times have changed because that Coraline song that she sings, I was like, oh, this is from TikTok
Oh.
because it's a trend on TikTok. But and I
The
look, yeah, I love the music. It's so good. Like that Coraline
Yeah.
song is so. It's just the right amount of like off and weird, you know.
creepy little kids
Yeah.
singing too. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
the little
I think the
skeletons.
subtitle said like kids singing nonsense language or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like cool.
Like I said, I think it
I won't
resonates
try and
with my
decipher it.
daughter too, because like I said, she tells me, "Mom, I'm hearing the soundtrack, and the little kids are singing." So she's hearing little kids
Yeah.
sing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, and I love
Yeah.
the way like the mom at the end as she kind of like shows her true form is so good. It's so
and it
well
keeps
done.
evolving.
Yeah.
Once she turns
Yeah.
into that form, and then you think that's it, and then she gets again, and then the last one is when she's a
Yeah.
spider. It's like,
Right.
whoa,
Yeah.
all
So
right.
good. Yeah.
The true nature.
And again, like, yeah, the movie doesn't pull any punches. It's creepy. Like the mom looks so creepy at the end of the film. So she's just
Yeah.
kind of like, and I love the way that they kind of make her so that she, at the beginning, when she's just like, or she's trying to pretend the mom, she's
Mhm.
like pretty much dead set with Coraline. And as she kind of shows her true form, she keeps getting bigger
Bigger,
and
bigger,
bigger. And
bigger.
it's like,
Yeah.
she's like overpowering this girl. And like, I think like, again, it's kind of the same thing we've talked about a lot, but like every aspect of this movie is kind of feeding back into the plot and feeding into the story. The way the house
Yeah.
changes, the way the mom changes, the way Coraline changes. It's just kind of like it works really well, and you could tell all the thought that they put into it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a good film. You should check it. You should check it out in theaters if you get the chance. It's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
August.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
August
so
check it out.
lucky.
14th. Like I said, I
Yeah.
think it's going to be like a 4 o'clock and a 7 p.m. both at in El
Cool.
Paso at the west and the east.
Nice.
Like I said, it's
Hell yeah.
only that day, but you get to watch in the big theaters. So
But
why
yeah,
not?
and it's
Yeah.
definitely worth it. Do you
Yeah.
guys know if it was in 3D when it came out?
I believe it was.
Cool.
Yeah, 2009.
I know.
Yeah,
Well,
everything was in 3D in 2009.
it's kind of that thing where it's like I know it looked good in 3D, but a lot of times animation always looks good because you're building these cells, and so it makes it easy to kind of convert to 3D.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
do wonder if they'll show it in 3D on the 14th.
I didn't even
Yeah,
look
I
into
was
that.
reading on the Wikipedia that they did like the actual like stereoscopic camera thing, where you had like two
Really?
cameras shooting each individual image at a different angle.
Yeah,
So
and that
Right,
you know
right.
what?
they went all the way.
That makes sense, and that also adds to. I wonder, like, if they did it also for the artistic choice, because when you watch like a 3D movie that was filmed like that on 2D, it kind of creates this like almost uncanny valley with it, and I
Yeah,
think that adds to Coraline because half of it is in like a weird, not human
yeah,
place.
Yeah.
hmm
And
yeah,
Yeah, very interesting. That's interesting to know, and I think that works even better in its favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, awesome. I think Coraline's great. I think you guys should watch it.
Yeah.
Any
2
got
thumbs up.
Celeste? Any last words on Coraline?
Other than that, yeah, it's coming in theaters in the big theaters. You should go watch it. But before we end it off, I was pretty excited a while back that I heard that they were gonna do a Coraline 2.
Oh, what?
It
Yeah,
was in the books to make it. It's kind of on hold right now. They were gonna do it where she goes to school because they didn't show too much. There was a scene in the movie where she was getting her uniform in Coraline, but
yeah,
they never showed her going to school.
right.
And this one they were talking about showing her going to school and that there was another other mother of some
Oh,
sort. Because at the end,
Oh.
when they have the hand in the well and all
Yeah.
that, it
yeah.
kind
She
of
like reformed
left off,
herself or
yeah,
something.
mysterious.
Yeah.
So, but I heard that I don't know if it was Neil Gaiman or one of the directors that kind of wanted to leave it as is, like Night for Christmas, didn't
Mm.
want
It,
to
yeah.
continue it.
That's probably good.
Yeah,
It makes sense. I
I
mean,
wasn't sure.
I would definitely like to go revisit this world, but it works so well as an individual thing that
to
I
leave it
think,
as is. Yeah,
yeah, you could do either
Yeah.
one. Like, I mean, if they brought everyone back, I think it'd be cool to like kind of revisit it, or even like you could even do Coraline in high school, and see where
yeah,
she is then. Because like high
Yeah.
school, it has that same kind of feeling where you almost feel like you want this whole other life, because you're
yeah,
on the edge of
Yeah.
being an adult, but you're not one yet. Kind of like how Coraline's like she's about to like kind of break off on her own, but she's still living it. Like she's still with her parents most of the time, and
Yeah.
so I think that might work. I think that'd be cool. But yeah,
yeah.
it'd
Well,
be
Yeah.
interesting to see what they did.
they would. I mean, like I said, it's good. We're leaving off. It was just if they just stay at that one, but if they have a second one coming, I would definitely be interested, like you said, in going back into that world.
Yeah,
Yeah. Why not?
right, right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, William. Any last words?
I had a really great time rewatching this movie again. I think that people in our generation are always going to respond to that stop motion kind of feel, and whenever somebody can knock out of the park, it's always
Cool.
it's always a great thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Coraline existing and for being badass.
And I think this is our first animated movie that we've done in the podcast.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
I can't think of another one.
Why
Cool.
not?
That's
I wanted a special effects.
yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, and it's funny because like that's why I love to let the guests pick the first one because they'll pick movies that
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have thought of, like this one, and this is a great addition. So that's why it's always
Yeah.
cool. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anywhere that you want people to maybe see your work or kind of reach out to you?
Yeah, I used to have, well, I still do. It's a website where I have all my work. Like I said, it's a broad range, but like right now, I'm just, I do side work and also a stay-at-home mom, taking care of my 3-year-old toddler.
Nice.
Hell yeah. With the help of Coraline.
Yeah. She says, "Mommy, that's me." And I'm just like, "All right."
Yeah.
Rethink your choices.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She sleeps with this doll. I had
Really?
to ask her to borrow it for
Oh, nice.
podcast,
Steal it back.
but she sleeps with it. So
That's hilarious. Also, having Coraline be your favorite movie is pretty perfect as a mom because I can't think of an easier costume for like Halloween and stuff like
well,
that.
speaking
know?
of that,
Oh, I
this
know,
past
right?
Halloween we actually were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was Coraline, she was the cat, and my husband was Wybie.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she wanted to be the cat.
that's amazing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's what we were. And like I said, this movie was hit with me too because being a mom, it's funny because you never really understand or always really understand what your kids are going through. Like you said, we're so busy working,
Right.
and this child is just trying to get
Mhm.
your attention, but at the same time, they find another way in this perfect world, and that's another reason why I kind of liked it too. And I think my daughter likes it too because there's two moms. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Yeah.
There's another cool mom.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you bring up a good point because it is that kind of thing where like Coraline's problem is a real problem that most kids have, but it's not. I mean, it's not a real problem because it's like you're when you're a kid, you don't really understand why like your parents work until 5 and why like
Yeah.
you get out of school and they're not there, and so like
Yeah.
it's like it's her situation is very relatable, and I think like. And it doesn't have to like add anything. It's just like no, parents are busy, especially when they're moving into a new house and everything. And so, I think that's what
The
makes
catalog is due.
yeah. I think that's what kind of makes this movie so special is that you feel
Yeah.
like you're never like, oh, why would you do that? It always feels good and real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also
Cool.
thought it was actually pretty
Genuine.
funny that the parents work for a garden catalog, and they don't want to
Yeah.
go outside and get wet and muddy. They don't like dirt.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, what?
They live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I've met promotion people like that. But yeah, well, thank you for joining us, Celeste.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for picking this movie, and we will see you guys next time on The Bomb Squad.